Good afternoon, everybody. This is August 24th, 2020, and we are here at the William Stinson House with Danny Gravas, son of John Gravas, who once owned this house. And he is going to Fred Mullen is here, Lee Martell, and myself, Donna Dunn, from the Historical Awareness Committee. And Danny's niece, Althea, is here with us in the background. She chose not to be on camera, but she's the secretary. So why don't you tell us, start out first of all, how you came to be in Dunbarton, when you came to be in Dunbarton, and about the first house you lived in.
In Dunbarton?
Yes.
Oh. Well, after World War II, Dad went back to Manchester and opened his store. And we lived in Manchester until I was 6.5. I started first grade at the Western School up on Hanover Street in Manchester, and then halfway through the school year I came here.
What year was that roughly?
That would have been 1946.
Got it.
And I went to the two-room school, Dunbarton Center, and there was 6 of us in the first grade. Allison Adams, or Allison Valier, Walter Warner, Joseph Gagnon, Angus Woodbury, and myself. And Allison told me last night that Nancy Hebert wasn't in our class, so there was just 5 of us. We added to that, we picked up Janet Richardson in the 6th grade, Bob Purdy in the 7th, and Roger Stevens, I think, in the 6th grade. So by the time we graduated, there was 8 of us.
Oh, okay.
5 went to Concord, and 3 went to Goffstown.
Because back then you could choose.
Yes.
How did you get to school? Did you walk or take a bus?
Oh, no. I had to walk from my house to the corner up here.
Uh-huh.
And my first bus driver was Gail Dudley. Lives right up here at the top. And he had all the way down Black Brook and all that. And that was fine.
Was it a yellow school bus?
No, nope, it was his car, a 47 Chevy. Then he got sick, and Agnes Marshall took over, Wilfred Marshall's wife, the old constable. And she had a car. She had a Chevy Fleetwood, the long ones. And in the wintertime, she hated to go down Black Brook Road. And Welton McKean and Billy Nichols lived down there. So she said, okay, all you big kids, you put the little kids in your lap. So I got to hold Billy Nichols all the way to school. He wasn't that big when he was 6 years old. He got a little guy. And so that's how we got there. And then we'd walk from the corner home. There was Charlie Meekins, who lived here. He was in my sister's class, my sister and I, the 3 of us.
Was there a Rilla Meekins too?
Rilla?
Rilla.
Sure. Charlie's wife. Old man Charlie's wife.
Okay, all right.
Rilla May.
Rilla May, okay. Now at this time you were living down the hill in the Chamberlain house.
Chamberlain House?
Well, that's
Well, Squeaky Barnard's old house is where it was.
The historical name is the Chamberlain House.
Really?
One of the original owners, yeah.
Well, it was a carriage house. The old sign was still in the barn. And Squeaky Barnard was Bob Baker's uncle up here on the turkey farm. And Don Montgomery got together with Bob Baker and sold the house to my father. He was the middleman. Donald was into a lot of stuff.
That was around the time they had the turkeys?
Oh yeah, when Bob was selling turkeys. It was Baker's Turkey Farm. No, up here in the center.
Okay, all right.
If you look out behind there, you'll see the old pens, or you used to be able to.
Did they had the apple orchards back then too?
Yeah, it was in back of our house.
Right. Came up to my house.
You bought the land right behind the orchard.
Right. Now, when you say it was the carriage house, it looked different. There was a different type of porch on the south side of it, I understand. But the barn was there.
Yeah, the barn was there.
And then...
Three-tier barn.
Three-tier barn. Okay, the current owner's done a lot of beautiful work on it, by the way.
So do we, because it collapsed.
Oh, geez.
I was bringing hay in, and I took the tractor in on the first floor, and the first floor broke.
Oh, wow.
And so Harold Burnham, and I rebuilt it one summer. That
Now,
was.
did you have animals, farm animals?
I had horses.
You had horses. Oh, so you had a pasture out there?
Sure.
Fence and
That in front of the orchard.
in front of the orchard?
Yeah, the orchard only came down like halfway down the hill.
Oh, okay.
I had my strawberry garden right up off the bank,
Mm-hmm.
and then that loop around to the woods is where I had my horses. My sister had one, and I had one.
You were pretty lucky.
Yes, I was very lucky.
Did you have chickens? Were there cows? Were there any farm
No.
animals? Nope. Just the horse cow?
Just the horses.
Just the horse.
Um,
And it was just you and your sister?
Yeah.
You and your sister?
She was 2 years older. She and Charlie were the same age. Little Charles.
So, what was did you have central heating? Did you heat with wood? Was it, some of the kids tell us it was, well, kids your age tell us that it was pretty cold at night.
Yes, it was very cold, but we were pretty well off, so we had everything,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And Mom was a portrait painter, and she painted the King of Spain, this guy up in Canada, and so on and so forth. So Mom made good money too when she went out.
Now, what did John do at the time?
My father?
Your father?
My father owned a clothing mart.
I'm not sure I knew that. Okay, so
Huh?
he owned the clothing mart, and your mother. I know your mother was a painter. I didn't know she did portraiture. We have been told, and there were notes to the effect that she did paint the stage cloths
Yeah,
for
she did
upstairs
that.
at the town
She did
hall.
landscapes. I mean, she was good friends with Andrew Wyeth up in Maine. She did seascapes.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Norman Rockwell. She knew Rocky. And I knew all kinds of people, you know, because between Mom and Dad, you know, and she painted the governors up in the State House. Then she did all kinds of stuff.
Did she do it under Marguerite Gravas, or did she do
No,
this?
M. Powers Gravas.
M. Powers Gravas.
She was the first woman to hold an exhibit in Grand Central Station. They thought she was a man.
Do you have any newspaper clippings from any of this that we could take pictures of, or?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. I don't know what they all are. It's been so long since I read them. I know we gave Dr. Baldwin back to some town in Kentucky.
Dr. Baldwin?
Yeah, he birthed half the town. And they were crazy to get his portrait. It was huge. And they offered her all kinds of money for it. Mom kept saying, well, it's not done. It's not done.
Was her work ever cataloged? In other words, is there a list of her work somewhere?
I don't think so. If they do, it's at the Courier.
Okay.
But I got my dad's picture, my dad's portrait. I'm trying to get my grandfather, the one in that picture, the old man in the picture. I came up to get her mother's portrait that Mom did of her mother when Dorothy was 15. So she was what? 10. She was 10 years old then? Ooh. There were some others. Some of them we gave back to the Courier because she was their prize pupil, along with the instructor, whom you people don't even know she was as widely known, internationally known as she was Maud Knowlton, down on Grapevine.
Actually, she's recently come across my consciousness. I found some pictures of her husband.
Yeah, Edward.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That was a tragedy. But Maud Knowlton was an instructor at the Courier Gallery, and she was an expert in proportion, I think it was. And
I'm kind of surprised this wasn't more well known in Dunbarton.
well, that's why they lived here.
They didn't want it known
Yeah.
locally.
It's like Margaret Fitzhugh Brown, which was the color compositionist of the world.
Did she live here?
No, she lived in Turtleton Kids. I don't know where she lived. But Mama went to see her when she was in a nursing home. And that's why Mom got married. Because Margaret said, Marguerite, you can be as famous as you want to, but this is how it ends up. She says, you're the first one to come and see me in 6 months. It was sad.
Did your mother keep a diary at all? Make notes?
Only my grandfather, mama did.
A scrapbook?
No.
Oh my goodness.
It all went by the by. I do have a lot of the clippings and stuff. But,
At some point, we'd love to make copies of those.
you know, now Dad's clothing store outfitted 3 presidents of the United States. You too? Half the politicians in this
The one
state.
in Manchester? At the end of, on Elm Street?
Elm and Central.
Elm and Central, okay.
675 Elm Street. 622-5441. Clothing rack.
George, and that was George's, okay.
Yeah.
I bought plenty of suits here.
Everybody here. He was written up in the Boston Globe. He'd send 60 suits every 3 months to Caterpillar Tractor in Peoria, Illinois. He had that big a mail-out business.
Wow. Competed with Sears and Roebuck, huh?
Yeah. When the old man died,
He was extremely generous.
when the old man died, he parlayed about $4.5 million. That's what his CPA told him he's worth. He had no idea of that.
They just worked.
Yeah.
Just like Marguerite painted.
And my mother was the business end. She knew how to take care of things. Daddy just was the salesman and the worker. And you know.
Now, did you take up painting at all, or did you try
You
it?
gotta be
Or?
kidding.
Well, and did you work at your father's store?
I did that.
Okay.
When Grammy and Grandpa died, and great Grandpa, and they were all brought back to Greece. See, Dad came here when he was like 11, and but all of our relatives, with the exception of my uncle and my cousin, were still in Lamia, the city on the Aegean, over by Salonika and Volos. And so he went across to bury his parents, and you know, I had the store then. That's when I bought that half block from Cotton Bottle in Manchester, the Silver Brothers. And Daddy was furious because he was 68 then. And I'm too old to take on everything. You know.
All right, so we know you worked there. When you were younger as a child, did you have any chores and jobs or here in town in Dunbarton? Some kids, you know, work
No.
for
I just worked around here.
just around here. Okay.
Yeah, keeping the grounds and everything here was plenty because there was a lot
Yeah, 'cause
more than this.
Bill Nichols used to work for Charlie Little in his farm.
Yeah.
And all right, so
And Jimmy Stone was the one that plowed the cornfield up here. Daddy let him have the hay in the cornfield.
that was still going on when I was here.
Yeah.
I moved here in '95. So, at what point did you move from the Chamberlain house down the hill up here to the Captain William Stinson house?
70. No, maybe 68. Fred had hunting dogs, Fred Greenhalgh, and they'd howl in the morning and wake my mother up. That is a big mistake to wake up my mother. It's like waking up a bear in the
'cause he lived
wintertime.
across the street from the Chamberlain house. He
Yeah.
lives in the, and I can't remember the name of that house right now. That's another historic home.
So they came out. Mom came by to drop Charlie off groceries because Charlie was real old, the old man, Charlie Meekin. And she said, Charlie, you wouldn't be interested in selling this place, would you? Well, I forgot the right price. Says Carl Sardi was up here and offered me money. But I wouldn't sell it to him because he won't give you half of what it's worth anyway. Carl Sardi was the most popular person. You must remember Carl.
No.
You don't remember Carl? Christ, he built 3 houses in this town.
Carl Sardi, S-A-R-T-Y.
Huh, I'll be darned. He bought the one across the street from us, from Henderson Brody, initially. And then he sold it to Nell Byrne, the waste paper basket
Yeah,
woman.
the toll woman. She did toll work.
And she sold it to Fred. So Fred got here about 58 because
Oh, you weren't far. Oh, he got here quite a ways after you did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There were 3 owners between him and us
Any kids your age to hang out with?
on the road.
On the road, yes.
Charlie,
Up
he was here 2 years older than my sister. Mrs. Marshall down at the lake, her daughter was really little.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marshall's cabin.
Yes.
Which was pretty much the only building there.
Yeah. And back then,
Yeah.
before Holiday Haven Acres, whoever remembers that place. God, they brought more riffraff into this town than you could shake a stick at. And one day, Mom got up, was eating breakfast, and a family walks right into the barn. And she's going, excuse me. Yes? "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, we're just looking around. Well, that's my barn. You know.
It was supposed to be for summer campers, and it turned into something else.
Yeah, a lot of people, they got people that couldn't afford to live anywhere and bought this little camp there and lived there. So that was a pain. And Dad was really upset. He said, I should have bought that. Like he did Turkey Pond, the public access way. Who was it came? Some lady came. I was here at the time. And they were $20,000 short, I think. Because the contractors are buying everything along the way. And she told him, Dad says, well, I'll give it to you. Go buy it. So he got that. He should have bought Corn Pond. But it was too late by the time he realized that. And he was too busy to get that involved. Even when they elected him selectman, he went to the meeting and said, I don't have time. But get Will Brown. He'll know how to do it. Because Will Brown was married to a DuPont. And, so he had connection, big time connection. And Dad liked Will.
All right, I'm going to switch you back again to a kid. As a kid, did you go swimming around here? Did you go sledding around here?
We went to Horace Lake.
Camping.
All of us did.
You did.
Because the water was clean until the polio thing came in '52, and everybody was grounded. And we used to ride our bikes over to Horace Lake and swim.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
Probably 45 minutes.
So by the time you cooled off, you came
Yeah,
home,
you
were
come
hot
back
all
and you might stay.
Do you remember a little swimming hole in the center of town, across from the library, down in the hill, down Everett Road, where Zellers used to have?
Yes, Billy and used to swim down there all the time.
Yeah, the town kind of made it.
Well, it was always there as long as I remember.
Oh, that was the little pond on the right-hand side.
Yeah, as you go down the hill.
Yeah, the town actually poured concrete over on the left later and made a swimming hole
Oh
for
no,
the kids.
that was
Okay.
after. Before that, that was the town softball field. That's where we played Ray Unty's team out of Grassmere.
Okay.
Big Bill O'Clair was the coach.
Do you have any pictures of any of this? Did your family was doing okay? Did you have a camera growing up?
No.
No cameras.
That's her.
Okay.
She's a professional photographer.
Well, I didn't know if there were any pictures of.
Mama was the painter,
Yeah.
and I was the musician.
Dad was busy.
And Dad was busy. Yeah. And my sister was just trouble.
And
Oh yeah.
all right. Do you remember any particular trouble or shenanigans you might? have
Oh,
gotten
yes.
in? Well, tell us something.
When Colonel Doyen of the state police, his first route was here
Didn't know that.
as a slick sleeve statey. And I was about 10. He used to park right in that triangle where the flag is in front of the school. And all of us kids would go and see him. Mr. Doyen, hi. We loved Paul Doyen. The police were entirely different back then. They were hiding behind trees, trying to catch you and all that stuff. They were literally your friends. And Paul would say, Eva Tucker is sick. I said, yeah, I know. And he said, somebody rang the church bells last night and woke her up. You wouldn't know who did that, would you?
Oh.
And he said, why don't you tell me and let me take care of it? Okay. So I told him.
So I'm taking it the church was unlocked back then.
Well, you could get in it.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Especially if you were Bobby Eau Claire.
Okay.
So it was Bobby and Billy and my sister. They always included her. And Peter Montgomery and I would never get in trouble. Peter was too shy. And if he even talked to him, his face would get red back then. And so he would say, I'm not going to do that. I said, okay, I won't do it either. So we ran off. Stuart was too little then. Stuart was a couple of years behind us. And but whenever Paul wandered, if he asked us, we tell him. Yeah, I mean, we trusted him and we liked him.
Different days. So when you moved up here, did you still have horses? Whoever's listening
Yes.
to this, you'll hear the chickens in the background. The
No,
current
we didn't have
owners-
chicken.
No chickens. The current
Just
owners
horses.
have them, yes. How often did you find yourself heading into the city, Manchester or Concord?
All the time. Daddy was there.
Yeah.
She was there. Her mother. And my aunt, her grandmother.
So it made sense to go in there.
So
So what did you do here? At what point did you leave Dunbarton? You were here from the time you were like first grade to...
yep, till I was 18.
Till you were 18. And then
I went in service.
you went in the service and you never really came home.
Well, I went from the service to the University of New Hampshire, Durham. So I was back and forth all the time.
Okay. So as a teenager, did you go to dances here? Did you have social...
Everything stopped here for some. Remember the old whist parties they had in the town hall on Sunday afternoons?
I read about them in the old newspapers, yes.
You know, it was where the school lunch program was. I went. Don Montgomery was the first chef for the school lunch program in 1948. I was in the 3rd grade, and then Annie DeLude took over. And I don't remember what happened after that. Because after 8th grade, I went to Goffstown High School, along with the Sweeney kids, Roberta, Kathleen, Jack, and Terry. And the Montgomerys all went to Goffstown.
Was it like if you lived at the south end of town,
It depended
to go
where
to
your
Goffstown?
parents worked.
Because your parents, that's right. there
Because
were no houses.
Powell's Lane
Yeah.
had Bobby and Jane. They went to Concord. Because Arthur
That's
worked
where
there.
your parents had.
Art Powell was the moderator here for years at the town meetings.
Yeah.
And he was also the head of the 4-H program in the school.
So, did you have, I'm just looking here at this.
The Greens went to Concord.
Oh,
Bubba, Kenny, Gordon, Arthur, and Audrey.
I guess I always pictured them as going to Goffstown. So
You
the south.
all
I
went
didn't know
Concord.
that. Okay. Let's see. Oh, what was your phone number when you were here? Do you remember your phone number?
You're being a little bit risque,
I am,
aren't you,
aren't
daughter?
I?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
It was 774-3827.
Really?
Yep.
Were you?
Or it was 14 ring 12.
That's what I was getting at. And you had how many people on your party line?
12. We were line 14, ring 12. Mrs. Meekins was 13. Ding, ding, ding.
Good gravy.
And you'd
Okay.
pick up the phone, and all of a sudden you'd hear click, 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 as everybody picked up their phones to see what the news was. And sometimes one would say, "Okay, Rilla, you can hang up now. It's personal." And you'd hear all the lines go click, 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 click.
Yep. So, let's
And that was a long time before we got other than hand crank phone. Because Ma Bell got broken up, and that's when Don bought the phone company here, and he changed it.
do you remember any like big catastrophes in town, like house fires?
Oh, sure.
You would talk to us about.
The biggest one was Bovair, down there in the middle of the road below Charlie Sawyer's place,
Yeah.
when he torched his own
It's
house.
across from what's now the Montchaleski house. It's huge. We didn't.
He was the lawyer,
Which one?
Marshaleski.
A modular, he's a roofer, modulus.
Oh, wow.
A different family.
Winowski or
Oh,
Winnicki. He's the one that stole the house from Mary Story.
That's,
we can't think of the name right now. It'll come to us. It'll come to us.
Your husband must know him. Andy must know him.
I'll check. But the house that you're talking about.
Was across the street from
Right,
Dick
and
Story's
and
house.
it burned sometime after 1941, because if you go
No,
into
it
this-
burned in the 50s, early 50s.
Right.
I'd say
Because you can
51
see
or 2.
You go into the selectman's office, they have that huge aerial map.
Yeah.
You can see the footprint of it. It was big.
Oh, yeah,
Big
yeah.
house with a couple of barns, and that must have been a heck of a fire.
Oh, ho, ho. I followed John Buffum. We followed him down to the fire because it was all volunteer.
Mhm.
And
They had a pumper back then, right?
I don't remember. I don't remember what they had.
1936 pumper, okay.
And Dad said, that's why I knew I was 8 years old and he said it burned 48. No, I was old enough so Dad took me to help him. And, jeez, what a fire. It was a beautiful old colonial house, like ours here. When it poof, just like that.
Long. The barns were parallel.
And
with the house.
he came home one night and his kids were fighting over who was going to inherit the place. And I guess he had a snoot full. This is just hearsay.
I think he had 5 or maybe 7 daughters. I've got a picture of the boy bear, Adelaide Boy Bear,
So
and his daughters.
there was they were having a big fight over it. So the old man torched it. Fight over this.
Ooh.
That's what happened to it. And he moved into the barn. If you went down that hill in early to middle 50s, there was stovepipe sticking out of one of the windows at the end of the barn. That's where he lived
Oh my goodness.
for years.
Then did he build the little square house that's there now?
Geez, I don't know.
I'll have to check.
Because I didn't know him. I just knew about him because it was the talk of the town, of course, at the time.
We don't have. We must have a record of that fire in the old records, Fred. I'm hoping we do. We don't have a picture of that building. We know what the footprint looked like, and I managed to come up through some connections, just a corner of the house with the girls standing in front of it. But we don't have any full-on pictures of that, and I'm kind of surprised. because
Well,
it's
I'll
massive.
tell you, that house looked just like this one with the barn. Same kind of barn Charlie Meekin said, because Charlie was milking 20-something head.
Oh, I didn't know we had that many.
Yeah.
Before you bought the house, he had.
Oh, yeah. How do you think Charlie lived?
I didn't know we had that many cows.
Yeah. He came up the lane up here from the backfield across some Parkers. He'd drive him up that little stone lane up to the barn. And, but they stopped in somewhere. I can't remember exactly when Hood went to bulk milk. They stopped picking up milk cans.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the 50s sometime. And Charlie couldn't afford, a bulk milk tank and that whole rigmarole. And he didn't say anything to Dad because I remember Dad telling Mom, well, I'd have bought one, what's the old guy gonna do? And Daddy liked Charlie, old Charlie. And so Charlie went out of business. He had his 2 workhorses that he worked the land with, Dick and I can't remember what the other one. They burned in the barn when the barn went up.
Ooh.
And that just about did Charlie in. He was in, I think, 90s by then. He used to sit in a chair in the corner of the room over there, next to Hell Jr., he called it. That was his wood stove. And then Rilla died, and he was all alone. His son-in-law lives in that little house over there on the other side of the pond.
The little green one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one lives at the top of Page Hill, Moino.
Oh, yes.
That's one of his son-in-laws.
Our interview.
I think he's married to Rilla Jr. Rilla, named after her mother,
Yeah.
not Jr. They call him.
Yeah.
Must be pretty old.
Huh?
Moira must be pretty old if she's still alive.
Is she still alive?
Jeez. You know, you're right.
I went to school with the kids.
With Rilla's kids?
With Moino.
You did? Where'd they go to school? Goffstown. I knew her. I didn't know him very well. I knew the one over here, and I knew the one in Manchester. See, Charlie Meekins Jr., the kid, was a looper. He wasn't. His brother won the first lottery in the state. He won $50,000 in 1963. Joey Lupa.
I think I have a picture of Moinu at the Historical Society. I was there one day when she happened to pick up a picture of her siblings at Page's school, and she held it in front of her, and I took a picture of her, and she was quite elderly at that point with that picture.
Mrs. Moino?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we
She would be. She was. I was a little
This is
kid
probably 10 or
when
15
she was
years ago.
married.
Yeah, it's probably 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure I have that.
And but we used to go in. We'd pick up Charlie like Sunday night when we came home from Manchester, and bring him back here because he spent the weekend with his mother and father, Joe Looper, and I don't remember what his mother's name was, but she was the Meekins.
Mike Lupa? There's a Mike Lupa that lives down the hill. I think that's a descendant.
That's got to be grandchild or something.
It's a grandchild.
I think the father was Stanley. It might have been Joe. I mean, he might have had a junior. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty
But they
sure
lived
I
at
have it.
23 Pearl Street in Manchester. I remember that. They
All right,
stopped
so
there every
I
weekend.
want to go back to those cows, because at the time he had those cows, there would have been cows on Burnham Lane. Well, that was a small one, but
Charlie Sawyer.
the Burnham farm down there had quite a few cows, right?
Webster?
Webby.
Yeah.
Did he
That's
have
that
more
mom called.
cows? Did he have more cows than?
I don't know.
That's curious.
I know he had them,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know how many he had.
Okay.
He was an odd duck.
So did Charlie ever fall asleep on his cow, milking it? Because I've heard stories of Walter Gould falling asleep on his cow in the middle of the winter. I've heard stories of Webby falling asleep on his cow, one of his cows in the
I
winter.
don't know. I can remember old Charlie had a mouth on him, I'll tell you. You could hear him driving the cows up from the field. Jeez.
All right, so we're getting kind of. So what I'm gonna do is, let's see, what else we got here? Do you remember? Do you know where Elm Drive was? Do you know where there were a cluster of elm trees? I know this stretch of road was called Oak Lane, and there
Really?
was a stretch of Route 13 called Maple Drive, but no one knows where Elm Drive is.
Maple Drive had to be up by Sawyer somewhere. 'Cause
Actually, I
he was-
think it was down by Burnham. When you
yeah,
said-
that's where Charlie is.
Oh,
Charlie's
okay,
at the top
all
of the hill. That farm up there,
Okay.
isn't that where the golf course is?
Yes.
Charlie sold his field
Okay,
to the golf course.
That's what it is. But do you remember elm trees? Remember elm tree disease came in and killed everything?
That was before us, before we got here.
Okay, all right. So that, oh, I'm not going to find that. And you were here. Were you cognizant of when the Stark Cemetery was moved? When they moved?
That was real early.
That was real early.
It must have been in the middle 40s. I was a little kid, and I
Okay.
remember Mama talking about it.
Yeah.
Because my mother was big into antiques. That's why she loved this house so. Of course, Dad spent $350,000 redoing it to bring it back. He brought Richardson up from Williamsburg, the guy that did Williamsburg and Sturbridge, to supervise the house.
Yeah, there was somebody had put a 2-story boxy addition on the front at one time.
Yeah.
Actually, when the Meekins were here.
Yeah.
And your father had it taken off and had
Yeah.
the house restored to
Yeah.
its original facade.
Yeah.
It's the only one in town with dual fronts.
Had all these door hinges and stuff made by a blacksmith in Baltimore who hammered them out by hand.
Interesting. All right. Anything else you want to tell us? Because we're kind of getting to our time limit here, and this has been delightful. You rattled off a lot of names that sound familiar to us.
I would
what do you think about your time growing up here in town?
Well, I was just going to say, I would end by saying, you know, I told my kids, you know, that half my ashes were to be thrown in the pond with her mother, and the other half were to be buried here, because this is my home. This is, you know, even when I'm on the road and I get interviewed, I'm a professional musician. So when I get interviewed, I always say, they say, now we understand you grew up in Boston. I said, no, that's where I started my professional career as a musician. I grew up in a town called Dunbarton, New Hampshire. Don't look for it, because all you'll find is Cliff Reservation. There isn't enough room on the map for the name. But it's a wonderful little town outside of Manchester, and I'm not going to tell you where it is because we don't want a whole bunch of foreigners in there. Yeah, they did find out.
They found
And
out.
especially when they struck down the rule, they had to have 5 acres of house lots. The dad and Fred fought so hard to get in. And that guy built in that little square at the top of Mills Hill, across from Gould's place. He built a house in there, for Christ's sake. You know, that's when Dad said, this is going to stop. And the judges struck it down. I won't say anything about what party they were from.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you very, very much, and
But I want to tell you this.
yeah.
It was a wonderful place to grow up. I would have not wanted to grow up any other place but here. There were wonderful people here. They looked out for the kids. John Swindler spanked me because I let David Sweeney hit a ball that bounced in the road through the firehouse window, and he was standing there watching. He ran right into school. Hey, Gravas, come here. And I walked up there, and he sat down on a chair and spanked me in front of the whole class.
You'd never
He says,
get away
next
with
time
that
you
now."
catch that, and bring me 50 cents through a window.
Well, Danny, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.